Hello, nieces and nephews, and welcome back to Unkle Orlok's Vault for episode 6, where we'll be talking about the movie Suspiria. Suspiria? Suspiria? Isn't that what I'm saying? Is there an echo in here? Suspiria. Just roll the trailer.
Roses are red, violets are blue, but the iris is the flower that will mean the end of it.
You can run from Suspiria. You can hide from Suspiria. Suspiria. But you cannot escape Suspiria. The only thing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Suspiria are the first 92.
Dario Argento, the Italian master of horror. Now, some of you may be familiar with Argento and others may not, but the film that he's most known for is Suspiria, 1977. Suspiria stars actress Jessica Harper, who you may have seen in films like Pennies from Heaven and My Favorite Year. But Argento cast her in Suspiria after seeing her in Brian De Palma's cult film Phantom of the Paradise. It also stars in her last film role the star of the golden age of cinema, Joan Bennett, in her final feature film role as Madame Blanc. Bennett appeared in many films, including the original Father of the Bride with Spencer Tracy and Elizabeth Taylor. But horror fans may know her best as the character of Elizabeth Collins Stoddard on the popular TV show Dark Shadows. It also has a small cameo by German character actor and cult favorite Udo Kier, who's been seen in everything from Lars von Trier movies to Andy Warhol. Argento really arrived with his debut film, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, in 1970. It was known as a giallo. The word giallo, meaning yellow in Italian, comes from these pulpy crime novels that had these yellow jackets on them. They were adaptations sometimes from everything from Raymond Chandler to Edgar Allan Poe to Agatha Christie, but usually featured more horrific, violent deaths, a sort of whodunit in a pulp universe. They were more similar to dime novels or penny dreadfuls as we would know them here. The giallo became a subgenre that Dario Argento mixed with the sort of cinematic style of Alfred Hitchcock, one of his favorite directors. The Bird with the Crystal Plumage became a big hit within the Italian and European markets. It went on to do a number of other giallo-themed films, like The Cat of Nine Tails, until it eventually got to a film in 1975 called Profondo Rosso, which translates from the Italian into Deep Red. In this film, it marks a shift for Argento to a more sort of supernatural, phantasmagoric horror, while still maintaining the giallo structure. In the film, the movie opens up as Suzy Banion's character arrives in Germany. She's brought to this ballet school in the middle of the night, in the middle of a downpour of rain. She's locked out of the building, but sees another student fleeing into the woods. This leads to a brutal murder that opens up the film. The next day, Suzy returns and is brought into the ballet school. It's only then that she starts to experience strange, almost occult-like happenings, and we start to realize that maybe the women who run the school are a coven of witches that are trying to bring back the head mother of sorrow and offer up Suzy Banion as a sacrifice. The inspiration for Suspiria came when Argento read Thomas de Quincey's 1845 poem Suspiria de Profundis, which is Latin for Sighs of the Depths. The concept of the Three Mothers trilogy came from this. Suspiria would be the first in this trilogy. The three sisters, or sorrows as they would call them, was Mater Suspiriorum, mother of sighs, Mater Tenebrarum, mother of darkness, and Mater Lacrimarum, mother of tears. These would be made into films Suspiria 1977, which would be set in Freiburg, Germany, Inferno 1980, which was set in New York City, and Mother of Tears 2007, which was set in Rome. The idea being that these coven of witches or these mothers of sorrows held reign over these cities on the globe. Argento collaborated on the screenplay with Daria Nicolodi, who was a writer and actress, but also a romantic partner to Argento at the time, and is mother to actress Asia Argento. Now, if Dario brought the occult influence into this, it was Daria who brought the fairy tale folklore influence, the sort of Grimm's fairy tale version of Suspiria. The inspiration of the fairy tales that she brought to it were things like Bluebeard, Pinocchio, The Adventures of Alice in Wonderland, and Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs. In fact, the lead character, Suzy Banyan, was based on Snow White. What makes Suspiria so special, and what it's known for, is definitely not its plot, but its visual style. This became the stamp of the Argento style, which would be copied many times over. It was shot by cinematographer Luciano Tovoli. The look that Argento was influenced by was Disney's animated feature Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That's why the film has a sort of storybook look to it, like cutouts on a stage. The world of Argento's Suspiria is bathed in all primary colors, specifically red and blue. It has this look and has been heightened by the use of Technicolor process. Now, Technicolor was not used as much at this point, and when they did this, it actually gave a look that mimicked a little bit more of the 1939's films like The Wizard of Oz or Gone with the Wind. It was actually the last Technicolor machine used in Rome at the time. The film also uses anamorphic lenses to great effect, which gives you this broad look in 235 with certain wide-angle lenses in the anamorphic style. The art direction also heightens this in the built sets, which mimic the German expressionist style, with forced perspectives and odd extreme angles. It feels like a fairy tale storybook. In fact, a giant facade was built on a soundstage in Rome that was inspired by the facade of the Whale House, which is located in Freiburg, Germany, a big red front with golden arches. There are also several scenes in the film shot on location in Munich, Germany, including the opening scene in Munich Airport, which looks like a set in surreal by the way it's lit in the primary colors. It changes the airport into something surreal. There's also a great scene where a blind man is killed by his own dog, which is shot in the middle of the city square of Munich. The main feature of Argento's film is the music, composed and performed by the progressive, I was going to say alternative, progressive, Italian progressive rock band. I got to get that term down. The main feature of Dario Argento's Suspiria is the music, which was composed and performed by... The main feature of Argento's film Suspiria is the music. It was composed and performed by this progressive Italian... Fucking Italian progressive rock band. Italian progressive rock band. I want to say... One of the main features of the experience of Argento's Suspiria is the music. It was performed and composed by this Italian progressive rock band called Goblin in collaboration with Dario Argento. They first collaborated with Argento on the film Profondo Rosso, but when they got to Suspiria, they really went hog wild. The film really relies on its tone and atmosphere by the score that's driving it forward in some of the most cacophonous and bizarrely composed music that you've ever seen in a horror film. Argento on Goblin would also go on to rescore the Italian cut of George A. Romero's zombie film Dawn of the Dead, retitled in Italy as Zombie, which is also a favorite for fans of Goblin.
Three mothers, pre-God, pre-devil. Mother Tenebrarum, Mother Lacrimarum, and Mother Suspiriorum. Darkness, tears, and sighs.
In 2018, director Luca Guadagnino released his reimagining of Suspiria, this time starring Dakota Johnson, Chloe Grace Moretz, Mia Goth, Tilda Swinton, and Jessica Harper returning in a small role. They abandoned the Argento style in favor of a more in-depth narrative. Luca Guadagnino himself said that the film worked more of a homage to the original Suspiria than a remake. It does work as a nice companion piece and is worth checking out. The legacy of Suspiria is that it became the epitome of the Italian horror movement. It really put Argento up there with other Italian horror greats like Mario Bava and Lucio Fulci, but Suspiria has really stood the test of time. When it came out, critics were somewhat dismissive and gave it mixed reviews, mostly accusing it of style over substance, but for those who love Suspiria, recognize the style is the substance. It became Argento's biggest financial hit in the United States to date. And now, nieces and nephews, it's time for Batmail. Oh, here comes the bat. Oh, what do you got there, boy? Yeah. Oh, thank you. And coming up next on Unkle Orlok's Vault, we're going to be doing, a good one here, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola version. So join us next time, nieces and nephews. Until then, coochie coo, baby.
Sarah, I once read that names which begin with the letter S are the names of snakes.